Welcome back to the Battlefront Alliance, and what a crazy day once again it has been. From everything that has happened this week, somehow today takes the cake. We have set yet another new record on Steam for the player count of Star Wars Battlefront 2. Multiple developers have been talking about their ideas for what could happen with this franchise in the future. Multiple celebrities, multiple brands have been talking about Star Wars Battlefront in the media. Everything is kicking off right now. So, let's start things out with the player count today. So the previous high in player count was set back in 2020, I believe. It was just over 10,000 players concurrently on Steam. Remember, Steam is a very small portion of the player base. It's split between, obviously, console, you have Xbox, you have PlayStation, as well as the other launchers. You have Epic Games, who gave away Battlefront for free for quite a long time. You have the EA launcher that it came out on in 2017, where a lot of people would have bought the game. They would have bought it from that. So we went from 10,000 players concurrently, 4 years, 5 years ago, to today, being at over 17,500 players. Absolutely insane. We shattered every single record, and it is not even close. And that's just with the numbers that we can see with our own eyes. Believe it or not, Elliott Battlefront Updates has been reporting that through every single console, if you added all the player count up from today, we are at 329,000 players on the Battlefront. Like, that's insane. Insane for a game that is more or less 9-10 years old. And look, you have every single right to question that number. We can't prove that, unfortunately. I do tend to trust Battlefront Updates just with his connections. He is very close with a lot of the developers. He got flown out for quite a bit of trips from EA and all that stuff. So if anyone has those connections, it's likely going to be him. And I just don't see him lying about something like that. Especially because we've had other developers come out and say that last week 166,000 players is somewhat believable with the current situation. So I tend to believe that that number probably is pretty close, which is just crazy. So that's our first piece of news that we have to look at today. The second one is very interesting, and it comes from EA themselves, and they have actually acknowledged Battlefront 3 for the first time publicly, I think, that we have ever seen, which is, again, crazy in itself. So I believe it was Instagram stories or something like that. I'll put the post up on screen. It was from the F1 team of EA, and it says, Battlefront 3 with a big red X, three-way battles at the front, the big green check mark. So obviously that's in relation to car racing and all of that. But yeah, that's the first time that EA has ever, publicly as a company said anything about this franchise. And they're kind of trolling us. They obviously have seen the community, like you can't not with everything that's going on. And I think it's probably a positive move. If they didn't want to have anything to do with this franchise ever again, I think that they would be on pretty high lockdown not to say anything like on any account ever. So honestly, I'd probably take that as, a somewhat positive sign. Again, it doesn't mean anything, doesn't mean we're getting an announcement imminently. No, definitely not. But, it brings a little bit more positivity to the table, at least in my mind. I don't know. That's just me. But also today, we had the re-emergence of Dennis Branville. So he all of a sudden took to Twitter this afternoon, and you'll see here, he has not been very active on Twitter/X, with his last post before being a repost in February of 2023. All of a sudden today, he's back with a statement saying, I felt a great disturbance in the Force, and how have you been? What an interesting time for this to pop up. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, is there something going on in the background? Is he talking to somebody? Is he talking to EA as a company? I don't think so. Battlefront Updates, again, did a great job at explaining this in his stream, and how Dennis does have his own company. He is working with a lot of the ex-Battlefront 2 developers on his team. So I don't think they're in a position where they can just leave that just to come back to a potential Battlefront 3. I do think that maybe, somehow, someway, he could be somewhat of a consultant on that project, if it ever was to get greenlit. No better person than him to potentially give insight on what needs to be included. He's seen the ups, he's seen the downs through the whole community, and he's had a huge part in shaping the rebound of this game, since its second half lifespan, since it came back really in 2019. He was a huge part of that. And I definitely, if there is a third game, somehow, some way, get him involved, even if it is just a small portion. And he was even giving some feedback on how Battlefront 3 could potentially happen. And it was interesting because we had a developer come out, I believe 2 or 3 days ago, saying that hold off on Battlefront 3, re-release this current game, remaster it for new consoles in 2027-28, and then start working on a third game. That's what a previous developer said. And Dennis commented on this and said that is not the way I would do things, which again is very interesting. And people are asking, what would your take be? And unfortunately, at least at time of recording, I haven't seen an answer to this, so we haven't found out what his, approach would be if there was a Battlefront 3. So yeah, I don't know, just very interesting time for him to all of a sudden, start putting some activity back on Twitter X and start talking about Battlefront once again on the Resurgence Day. But yeah, it's crazy times right now in the community. We've had Andor actors posting their in-game stats, how many hours they played, saying we need Battlefront 3. We had the actor who played Iden Versio making a statement. It's just crazy. There is such a hype train right now that I did not think was possible. The amount of mainstream news and attention this has got is just blowing away anything I ever thought was possible. Like, we've seen initiatives from fans, we've seen petitions trying to get the support for this game reinstated, or to just start a completely new game. And yeah, it's got its attention. I know the Act-Man started one, I believe it was last year, and it got, 500,000 impressions on Twitter X, and it got a ton of engagement. But nothing that measures up to what we have seen this last week. And I really hope the right people see this and finally start work on a new game. Likely, again, it's still going to be years and years and years away. But the sooner we get this started, the sooner we will get this game. But I think that's going to do it for this news roundup here today. One of the craziest days in Battlefront history for all the right reasons. Keep making noise, and we will get this made.